All right. Well, I am Matt Emery, and this show is Authority Figures, where I connect with best-selling authors. On this show, we distill a book down to its finer points so you can absorb some of the featured book through this conversation and get one step closer to taking action on your own dream, whether that is writing a book for yourself or implementing some of the teachings that this book has to offer. So today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Mick Spiers, the author of You're a Leader, Now What? Welcome, Mick. It's great to have you, man.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Great honor. Looking forward to our conversation today. Thanks.
Yes. So this book is it's about the proven path to high performance leadership. And Mick, you're an experienced executive, got an exceptional track record as a leader. You founded the Leadership Project, with a vision to challenge the status quo in terms of leadership. You hope to inspire all leaders to create psychologically safe environments where people feel valued, feel like they matter. You intend to bring joy back in the workplace. You embrace emotional intelligence and the science of how people learn. There's so much good stuff in this book, and you believe in the power of self-reflection and having a learning mindset by continually improving your leadership. And all of those things you've clearly embodied in your career. So what made you want to write this book and then thereafter create the Leadership Project?
Yeah, so it started with a bit of realization, Matt, of what was going on in the world. So I had a 30-year career. 15 years of that was in defense aerospace. And then another 15 years was in the urban mobility world. And in urban mobility, we worked on ticketing systems, on railway signaling systems, all kinds of things that make a city move and breathe and function, essentially. And in that area, my vision was to create a world that would de-stress the way people get to and from work. And then it dawned on me one day when more and more I researched what was going on in the world, that the stressful part was actually the bit in between the four walls. That there were many people that were just turning up. The level of disengagement was just increasing year on year. And you read research from organizations like Gallup, who say that only 20% of people in the world, Matt, 20% love their job and like their boss. So we're spending up to 1/3 of our lives in these jobs that either don't inspire us or worse still, completely stress us out. And that started off a whole kind of a whole run of things. I started a podcast to get people talking about leadership and going, what's going on here? Why have we lost everyone somewhere along the way? I started my coaching certification so I could learn how to be a better coach and work through elements like that. And I started to write the book. And writing the book, I stumbled across the Self-Publishing School podcast, in fact, and there was a lot in there that made me think that writing a book would get to a different audience compared to what I was doing with podcasting, compared to what I was doing with one-on-one conversations, etc. But really, the whole thing was driven by de-stressing the workplace, to get people to fall back in love with their jobs again, and to look deeply at the research as to, okay, what makes a great leader and where did we go wrong? And it all came down to some of those things that you just read out. It's people want purpose and meaning in what they do. They want to have their voice and they want to be heard and they want to be seen. They want to feel like they matter. And that's the root of leadership, is treating people in the right way and giving them the right environment so that they can knock it out of the park every day, where they can thrive. So that's what it is. I'm driven by this desire to empower leaders with all of the skills that they need to create those amazing teams and amazing workspaces where people fall back in love with their jobs again and start really showing up and doing their best work every day.
Yeah. Well, on that note, in the middle of the book, you talked about choice theory. And I guess in trying to create environments that people fall in love with, that they want to be in, you're addressing the perhaps the root issue is that we have a lack of good leadership. And so one of the areas that you talked about is allowing people to feel more like they are the masters of their fate, that they're able to choose, they can show up in the way, and they have some empowerment. What is choice theory?
Yeah, so choice theory comes from William Glasser, and he is an educationalist and a psychologist. And I'm not going to tell everyone that leaders need to become psychologists, but if you understand the psychology of what drives someone, it enables you to become a much better leader. And in choice theory, Glasser talks about 5 different fundamental human needs that people have, and they're roughly in a priority order. And when you go through this and you start thinking about what makes someone tick, it helps you to make sense of the world, and it helps you to then inspire people into great action because you know where they're coming from. And the 5 are in roughly priority order. The number 1 is survival, and that's why we have such a strong root or reptilian brain. So where the root brain kicks in and we go into fight, flight, or freeze. That's why people sometimes do erratic things just out of pure survival. The next one is around love and belonging. So this need for love, this need to feel like we belong, and think about that in the workplace, becomes really a strong, powerful need, to the point where that need for love and belonging can sometimes outweigh the need to be right. And that's where we get into things like social conformity. It's also when we get into businesses where we see people doing things because, that's just the way things are done around here. And we see some toxic behaviors in the workplace that get tolerated or even sometimes replicated because people are just trying to fit in and feel like they belong. And that's where we do see a lot of drive around diversity, equity, and inclusion at the moment. And if we get inclusion the right way, we will give people that love and belonging that people are thirsty for. The next one is power, and power can be both a positive and negative. Unfortunately, human beings are one of the few creatures on this planet that feel the need to want to have control over other human beings. That can be the negative side of it. But the positive side of power is just to feel like we matter, to have identity, to go, I'm Mick and this is me and I'm good enough. And so power can be a positive thing. The 4th one is fun, Matt, and sometimes we lose sight of that. Sometimes we can get a little bit too serious about ourselves, etc. So we do have a need for fun. And the 5th one's really important for leaders to understand. It's the need for freedom. And freedom is both freedom of choice and freedom from oppression. And I talk about who is controlling the steering wheel of your life. So you talked about controlling their own fate. What people want to do is they want to feel like they're making choices that control their life. They even want to take accountability for their life. So when a leader understands that, they'll be less inclined to try to tell people what to do, but rather to create an environment where they influence and inspire them into meaningful action around some kind of worthy cause. So this is what is at the root of leadership. We see far too many leaders and managers trying to tell people what they do because they've seen that. They've seen that in role models of leaders that they've had, and they've gone to replicate it, not realizing that, no, the best way to inspire and influence someone into action is to give them an environment where they discover things for themselves and they make their own choices around that worthy cause that you're looking to inspire them around. So choice theory is really critical for leaders to understand, even if you don't go deep into the psychology, even if you only know the things like people want love and belonging, they want to feel like they matter, they want to feel like they're making their own choices. Even if they decide to follow you as a leader, they need to feel like they made that as a conscious choice, not because they were forced to do. And then once you get through that, this is when you can unlock their full power, their full productivity, and allow people to bring their individual superpowers to your team, and you can create something of greatness.
Yeah, I love that. It's an awesome summary. And I think that people, even if this is not 100% always true, I think this is a really good belief to enter into life with, that people show up and people do their best. And if somebody is doing something that is less than what you may deem as their best, it's a good opportunity to take a step back and say, okay, maybe what is going on in their life, that's preventing them from showing up. And then there's something you sort of tacitly implied in that, is that if you're giving somebody, an employee, the ability to choose and have that freedom, that there is this sort of background just cause, like purpose, that's understood behind the organization, and that they're going to show up and they're going to do their best, as long as like they've received some guidance on like what is the inspired goal or the purpose of coming together. You mentioned like purpose and values driven leadership. So speak on that a little bit, because I love that section in your book.
Yeah, so this has been one of the secrets to my success, Matt, I've got to say. And I didn't always realize it, but you come to that self-awareness at some point where you realize, oh, yeah, I do that and it really works. So it's a leader that is able to articulate with deep clarity what their purpose is, what their vision is, and what their values and beliefs are. So I've stood up on stages in different companies that I've worked in, and I will stand up there and really clearly articulate what I'm trying to create in the world, the vision that I see for the world, and then share very openly my values and beliefs, sometimes very vulnerably as well, to share my values and beliefs as to why that's important and what drives me to be like that. And what then happens is you just naturally start surrounding yourself with people that believe in the things that you believe. So coming back to my example, I would stand up on a stage and I would talk about my vision for the world. I'd talk about my values and beliefs, and I'd be in a multinational company where I'd be the head of one team or one division, and it increasingly got bigger as I went along, to the point where it was global businesses. And then within minutes of finishing the speech, and for days afterwards, I would get physical and virtual knocks on the door going, "Hey, Mick, how do I join your team?" And the reason is because people see a path. They see meaning in what they do. They go, these people, this team over here in the same company, this team over here are about to create something of a worthy cause. And then that's what they want. They might be sitting in a team where they've been questioning, why do I do this every day? I've lost the reason why they might have understood it at one point, but I've lost the reason why we do this. And here's this guy standing up on the stage giving me a reason to turn up every day and making me feel like I'm part of something bigger. So yeah, articulating your purpose, articulating your values and beliefs, that's how you surround yourself with an amazing team. But it also gives them a North Star, a direction that when they do turn up and they feel empowered, they feel enabled, they feel energized, that they've got some direction that they're heading in towards. It doesn't need a perfectly jotted plan. We're going to do this today, we're going to do this the next day, et cetera, et cetera. What they need is that North Star that they're heading towards.
For sure. And
then they bring their own amazing powers to the table every day to help towards that worthy cause. One thing I can never not think about that I see in so many companies around the world, Matt, is we're paying people reasonable salaries. I don't think it is a salary issue. You see some people leave jobs and go for a 20K increase here and there. Yes, that happens, of course. And if someone's getting undervalued, they're going to go and find somewhere that does value them. But in reality, it's that purpose and meaning that they're looking for.
Yeah, it kind of that reminds me of the story of, like, there's three men or three people, and they're each doing exactly the same activity. And there's somebody that's walking along the street. What they're doing is they're laying bricks. And the first guy is like, what you up to? He says, "Oh, laying bricks." Second guy says, "I'm building a wall." Third guy says, "I am constructing a cathedral. It's like, I'd always thought of that more on the shoulders of the worker themselves. Like, oh, like look at the mindset when you really have this purpose behind your activity. But it was a light bulb moment for me to think, that may come from their leadership, that really installs that meaning behind their action, that vision. That's great. So the person that you wrote this book for, seemingly, is the person who they just got the promotion, right? And now they're a leader. And yet when the excitement and the jubilation of getting that promotion wears off, they're faced with reality. Okay, now I got to show up. And what do I do? And so that's kind of how we come into this book. And one of the first things you talk about is like the mistakes that all new leaders make. Do you remember some of these that you listed in the book? Just like
yeah,
the things
I do. I think I put about 8 in there. I could have kept on going on that chapter, by the way, Matt. I think I put about 8 in there. So yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah. What are some of the most common mistakes that new leaders make?
All right. So let's start with one, which is thinking that they have to be the answer to every question. That's a really big one. And keep in mind that we talk about that leadership transition that you spoke about, right? So someone has been amazing at what they do. They might be a great software engineer. They might be a great digital marketer, a great nurse, whatever it is. They're really good at their craft. And that's why they got tapped on the shoulder and said, okay, congratulations, you're a leader now. And they go through that roller coaster of emotions where euphoric highs of, I've been promoted and feel absolutely great about themselves, through to the thud of anxiety when they realize that no one has shown them what it means to be a leader. And their reference point becomes to mimic the behavior of leaders around them. So that's the start of the problem. But getting to this one about being the answer to every question, you've got to remember that previously they were getting applauded and congratulated on their technical prowess. So their comfort zone is to reach back and still be good at their job, their day job, whatever you want to call it. So they think that the answer is to be the answer to every question, including they'll even convince themselves and say, well, if my team come to me with a question and I can answer it straight away, it unlocks their productivity because then they can continue on straight away. But you're setting yourself up for a massive fall here because you become the point of dependence now. You become to the point where they become reliant on you to answer that question every day to keep the ball rolling down the road. So there's all kinds of things as to why that doesn't work. The first one is you're actually robbing them of an opportunity for their personal growth. So if someone came to you, Matt, and said, oh, Matt, can you show me how to do this? And you go, oh, it's easy. You do this, bang, 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 bang. They didn't actually learn anything. They'll remember what you showed them while it's convenient to remember, and then they'll immediately forget because they don't have to remember, because the next time it happens again, all they do is go back to Matt and say, hey, Matt, how do I do this again? Oh, you do it like this, bang, 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 bang. They're not learning, they're not growing, and they're becoming dependent on you. So that mindset where you thought you were unlocking their productivity, you're actually choking their productivity.
Yeah.
So a leader needs to learn that what got them promoted in the first place, that technical prowess, isn't important anymore. What's important is how they nurture their employees and coach and train them. So when someone comes to you and says, how do I do this? Rather than answer the question, hold space for them and kind of coach them through it. How do you think we should do this? And what do you think would be the right way? And what makes that important? And can you think of a different way? And they might come up with new innovative ways that you've never thought of.
Exactly.
And now you're growing together. Yeah. So that would be, I speak of that one to a lot of my coaching clients. You don't have to be the answer to every question. In fact, if you are, it's a real problem.
Yeah. Well, I'm relating this to my own experience. I've been part of two vastly different cultures One of them was when I joined a fraternity my freshman year of college, and I came in my first semester of my sophomore year, and I was what they called like the just active, the JA, and there was a culture of like, you're just a new brother, you don't speak at meetings. Like there's a certain protocol or like a certain way that we do things, and we find that a lot of times when the JAs speak up in meetings, that they're bringing up ideas that we already tried, and we decided they're bad ideas. So just observe. And that was something that by the time I was graduating, we had changed. But at self-publishing school, when I started in my current role, the position looked a very particular way, and it resembles itself in almost no way, shape, or form anymore. Like every 3 months, we like practically completely reinvent this position. And I do in some way attribute it back to when new people come in, they have these ideas, and like hearing them, listening to them, like asking questions like what you're just talking about does really create a ton of innovation. Because sometimes we become complacent on the back of these ideas, like, well, that's just how we've always done it. And even though we can recognize there's like a discernible pain point in that process, or like some tension in that process, the people that have been doing this for a long time can sometimes become numb to it. So someone coming in, they're like, why are you tolerating this thing that's just clearly inefficient? And giving that sort of thing a voice. I think what you said is perfect. It's like, you never know what kind of better solution this person's going to be ready with. So
yeah, you need to unlock that innovation in your team and give people that environment where they can stretch their legs and challenge respectfully, but where there's a high level of candor and a low level of fear. Give people their voice and allow them to speak without fear of judgment or retribution. It could be just that innocent question: why do we do it like this? And what made that important? And no one's actually asked that for 5 years, and everyone goes, yeah, why do we do that? And then off you go. You're innovating. And I was alluding to this before, but you're paying these people a lot of money. Why pay someone a whole bunch of money and then sit them in a chair and say, now do this, then this, then this? You're paying them for their intellectual capability, their knowledge, their ability to think, their ability to critically reason. So listen to them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Another mistake that seems common is doing too much. How does this one show up?
Yeah, good one. So it's actually similar to the answering every question as well. And that's where someone feels like, in fact, we get told this. We get told, to be a great leader, you've got to lead from the front, and you've got to be more productive than any of your team. But it creates the same kind of situation. First of all, you're robbing your team of an opportunity for growth. They might have wanted to do that activity that you just sat down and did. Now, I do believe that you shouldn't ask someone to do something that you wouldn't be willing to do yourself, but it doesn't mean that you have to do it. And in fact, Matt, I see a lot of people reaching back and doing large chunks of their old job as well as their new job, and then complaining like, I feel like I'm doing the job of 3 people. Yeah. But they made some choices along the way to do that sometimes. I mean, some companies have got resource constraints that they need to address, but they're reaching back and doing large chunks of their old job while they do their new job. I'm going to give an example. And I made this mistake myself many times, Matt. Let's say that we're coming up to a conference and we need someone to speak at the conference and represent the company, etc. The leader's tendency is going to go, well, okay, obviously I should do that. I'm the leader, and if people want to hear from me, I'm going to go and do that speech at the conference. As soon as you say you're going to do that, everyone under your team just lost that opportunity for growth, where they might have wanted to go and do that speech. And I can replace that with anything. It could be writing a new document, preparing a presentation, could be developing a new strategy. If you do it yourself, you're robbing your team of an opportunity to do it and to learn from it.
Yeah. My current leader talks about how he still emotionally measures himself by outdated KPIs. His old performance indicators when he was just a player on the team, and now he's a coach. And so at the end of the day, he finds that he's constantly battling against this idea like, well, it did like a productive day because like somewhat psychologically, he hasn't evolved to his new KPIs, which is interesting. And quite often I see him, trying to do too much because of he hadn't made that shift yet. So it's easy to do. It's really easy to fall into that.
I like the self-awareness there. I like the self-awareness that he's aware of that. It's not always easy to shift that, but to ask yourself at the end of the day, and this is, classic things of, you might have a to-do list sitting next to you. I don't have to-do lists anymore. We can talk about personal productivity and some other time, Matt, but I don't even use to-do lists anymore. But if you judge yourself at the end of the day as the leader, if you judge yourself at the end of the day by what did I produce today, you haven't shifted your mindset. What you should be thinking is, what did I inspire my team to do today? And how did I show up to enable them to have the environment where they can knock it out of the park? And now this becomes a huge force multiplier, because every leader is only blessed with the same 24 hours a day that everyone else has got. Your Achilles heel is time. Whereas if you spend the time going, okay, how can I inspire a large group of people to bring their best work? Well, and depending on how big your team is, now you're not just doing the work of one person, you're inspiring the work of 20 people, 40 people, 60 people, depending on how big your team is. Yeah. So it unlocks the capacity of everyone around you when you stop doing things and you start inspiring people into meaningful action.
I love that. Yep. One that I definitely have fallen into this trap in leadership is wanting, I think maybe there's like a little bit of an imposter syndrome, or wanting to feel like I have credibility, or like prove myself, but this desire to be the smartest one in the room. How have you seen that show up?
Yeah, it's very common with new and growing leaders. And it could be with your team that you're wanting to put your stamp on things and show how smart you are, and credibility, a little bit of personal validation. So some extrinsic validation that, I am smart and I'm clever and I'm going to prove every day that I'm clever. Then it also shows up when at the next level. So you're a leader of our team, but almost all leaders, unless they're a CEO or a founder, they are then part of a larger leadership team. So they'll turn up at the leadership team table and they'll be surrounded by their peers, and there'll be some level of competition, feeling like I need to justify my position at this table. And if I don't say something, the boss is going to think that I'm not pulling my weight. So you'll get into these leadership team meetings where someone is speaking not because they're adding value when they need to speak right now, but they're trying to show that I belong. I belong at this table because I can contribute. And you just need to back that off, because you remember you're there as a collective brain trust of a bunch of people that have all got their talents. Hold space for them and start listening. Listening is not the same as waiting for your turn to speak. And it's not about having that platform and proving how smart you are. It's about co-creation. So bring your gifts to the table, present those gifts at the right time, and the rest of the time be deeply listening to your peers and your colleagues so that you can co-create something that is greater than the sum of the parts. And if you go into any meeting just wanting to speak what's on your mind, you've lost a major opportunity to learn together and build together. Yeah.
On that note, you mentioned the power of things like Myers-Briggs and the EQI and all of these different little like personality assessments and getting to know your team. We had done one where I think it was the Clifton Strengths Finder, and had identified a couple members of the team that were deliberative. And so there's the way that I see a lot of like meetings facilitated is it's a little bit of pressure. There's some nervousness to facilitate a meeting, to ask a group a question, and then, well, what if it just, there's empty silence and we just sit here and it's just sort of like embarrassing for the facilitators, like, is no one's going to answer this question. And so a lot of times, like, maybe the same person will jump in and like want to answer the question right away, or the leader will like not really sit with the question or create enough of a pause for the deliberative folks or the people that are just like a little bit more skeptical of speaking up to get their chance to build that confidence to, like, assemble their thoughts in a way, and finally articulate themselves in front of a group. So I see that one all the time. It's like trying to become, as a leader, more comfortable just sitting and waiting and not like trying to fill the awkward, quote unquote, silence.
Yeah, so let me unpack that one a bit, and I'll see if I can help with mindset shift on this one for everyone in your audience, because this one can take a while to get used to as well. So first of all, as a leader, there are moments where you do speak first, like moments of crisis where you need to lead from the front and setting the vision. These are all times where the leader probably should speak first. The rest of the time, the leader needs to learn to speak last. Because one of the things that you're doing in the room as the leader is you're automatically influencing what other people are thinking. They want to please you. So if you come into a room and say, team, this is what I think we should do, what do you think? It's too late. It's too late, because you've already expressed an opinion and everyone's going to go, yeah, what you said, boss, because they want to please you. So learn to be the last one to speak and hold space for people to be able to do that. You spoke about the awkward silence. The mindset shift I want people to think about is, a lot of people will say, oh, I saved everyone from the awkward silence because I spoke up. How about this? You interrupted everyone's thinking time. So what people need, particularly deliberative people, introverts in particular, need this. They need time to process. And it's in that moment of silence that they're really deeply thinking and reflecting. People can't do more than one thing at a time. Scientists from MIT have proven it now. Multitasking is BS. It just does not work. So if someone is talking in the room, Matt, everyone's energy is on listening, then it's not on thinking. So when you ask that question and you hold space, and there could be the so-called awkward silence for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, I don't care. People are in a reflective space and they're thinking through, and what's about to come out of their mouths could be that golden nugget that the team needs to hear. But the person who went, oh, awkward silence, I'm going to say something, has interrupted the thought pattern. So you're not saving people, you're interrupting them.
Mm-hmm.
So hold space.
Yeah, that's so good. Do you have something else you were going to say about that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and then, yes, we do have different personalities in the room. You have people that naturally like to talk aloud and all of those kind of things. So mostly extroverts, but people that like to think by talking, people that like to scribble on whiteboards, it helps them visualize things, all those kind of things. And then you're going to have people in the room that actually need that space. They need that deliberative, reflective space for them to process what's going on. And usually if you hold that space, that's where the gold is. Those really amazing game-changing ideas are there. So one of the challenging parts for a leader is to create an environment that allows those people that need to kind of machinate and all that kind of stuff, that need those kind of people to do that, but then also invite and hold space for the people that need longer. So it could be someone, I have a person in mind on this one, saying to someone, Terry, what do you think on this? You've got some expertise in this area. What do you think on this? Really draw them out, and then hold space and just say nothing for a while and just watch them, watch their body language. You can tell if they're thinking through, and don't interrupt that thinking space, and encourage the others to as well. And then Terry has his say, and then the rest of the team go, oh, that's a really good idea. And then off you go again. People with the high energy and the buzz are bouncing off that idea, but you had the time where you let Terry think, right? So it is difficult. You have different personalities in the room, and your job is create an environment where they all feel like they have a voice.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I mean, in this case, you've thought, okay, I recognize that Terry is not the first energetic contributor on every question. That there's probably the same 5 or 6 people that are wanting to speak and wanting to be the life of the meeting and the conversation. Yeah, so it does take knowing your team, and maybe that's through a personality assessment, but maybe that's actually, like through a personal relationship.
The better way, I do use instruments, by the way. I use DISC, I use MBTI. I've used all kinds of ones, Hogan profiles. I do those things, but honestly, the best way, ask them, sit down and really ask them, what are your dreams? What is your vision for what we do? What makes that important to you? What are your preferences? How do you like to be rewarded? How do you like to receive feedback? Just ask them questions and hold space and listen without judgment when they give the answer. What level of direction do you like? So coming back to telling people what to do, some people do like a little bit more direction than others. And someone will say, oh, yeah, if you can just give me a little bit more detail than just, the high broad brush. And other people go, yep, just tell me what the rough objective is and then lead me to it, right? So understanding people's personal preferences and then treating them the way they want to be treated, not the way you want to be treated, the way they want to be treated.
The platinum rule. I'd never heard that before, but that's great.
Okay.
Treating people how they want to be treated. That, I think there's the question that you just posed there is quite brilliant. Like, what level of direction do you want in this event or this scenario? There was a time recently where I've shown up to a lot of events for self-publishing school, and I've been with the company about 3 years, and there's some people that are now coming to their first event, and I don't know why. Something I've learned recently is that, well, I'll keep this in more story form. This most recent event, like the second day, I came into the day just frustrated with one of my colleagues. And I think that worrying that I was going to be annoying in my coaching and offer unsolicited coaching prevented me from giving this guy the information that he needed to actually thrive at the event. Right. And if he had that information, then I would have felt much less tension toward this person as well. But I sat back. I didn't give the coaching. I didn't give any leadership, all for fear that it would be unwelcome or annoying. And it was fine. But that question that you just asked, like, hey, I've done a lot of these events. I want you to have a great event. I want us to do great as a team. Like, what level of guidance would you be open to, for me supporting you at this event? And then you just get permission, and maybe he's like, none, but that's not the type of people that we really hire anyway. But I never really knew how to lead into that so that I could offer the coaching that I really felt like needed without being annoying. It probably wouldn't have been annoying, but still.
I'm going to unpack 2 things there, Matt, if I can. One is asking better questions. So, hey, how can I best support you today? Or do you have any questions that I can help you with? Or holding, like that question, what level of guidance would you need here today? I've done many of these events before. How can I best serve you? So asking that question is really powerful. The other one I'm picking up there on, Matt, is also always remember that feedback is a gift, right? So most people thrive on feedback. Sometimes it takes them a while to process it, but feedback delivered in the right way, people thrive on feedback. And feedback is a gift. So when you're receiving feedback, always remember, because it is an uncomfortable conversation, that when someone gives you feedback, particularly if they're one of your team members, if someone gives you feedback as a leader, that means that their love, respect, and care for you is greater than their fear of the uncomfortable conversation. Mm-hmm. Okay. And most people enjoy feedback themselves, but struggle to give it. So ask better questions and remember that feedback is a gift. But in giving that feedback, you are still better off going back to the questions point, right? So what do you think is important right here? And how do you think that went? And because what you're testing there is you're testing for self-awareness and you're putting them on a journey of self-discovery, not just telling them, hey, Matt, that was the wrong way to do that. There's a moment in time for that as well. But taking someone on a journey of, oh, yeah, I could have done that better. Oh, yeah, next time I'm going to try it this way. Get them into a reflective space and you'll find that they know the answer themselves anyway. So ask better questions, but don't be shy about it.
Yeah. I like the way you said that. It's like asking the right question will bring their awareness into a particular like opportunity for growth for them. So starts with asking a good question. That's really helpful. So mistake number 4, being closed-minded to alternative approaches. Where do you think this comes from? How does this happen?
Yeah, so a lot of the times this comes from, remember I said about the person might have been promoted from within the ranks and they might have done that exact job before. So now they've got a team member who does the job that they used to do. And they might have a very fixed mindset about the best way to do that. But that's their view. And that's something that they developed over time. If you can flip that around and go, well, actually different is not necessarily wrong. In fact, different can sometimes be better, and keep a truly open mind and listen to the person. They might have a better way of doing the thing that you used to do, and be ready for that and just go, yeah, well, great. Yeah. New upcomer come through, does it even better than me. It reflects good on you as a leader, not badly. Like if someone comes through and does a better job at your previous job, that looks good for you as a leader, not bad for you, where you start getting jealous and go, oh, they're better at software engineering than I ever was. So who cares? You're creating that environment to be that wonderful software engineer. So different is not necessarily wrong. So don't be too rigid about the method that someone might take to get there. And it also, once again, I'm going to bring up the word ownership. If they've developed their own method, they then have extreme ownership over that method, and they feel proud, they feel empowered, they feel, I'm going to say the word again, proud. I think that's the key one. They feel so proud that I did this and I did it my way and the boss loved it. So different is not necessarily wrong. Wrong is wrong, but different is not wrong. So if they do it the wrong way, then you can coach them and say, well, let's have a think about this and let's unpack it a little bit, but keep an open mind and let them find their own way.
Yeah. Well, one of the next ones that you said was expressing your opinion too early. And for you unpack this one, I like to learn by a little bit of failure. Like there's probably a threshold where if I'm failing and it's atrocious, like I do want someone to step in. But I think it goes back a little bit for me to having an older brother, and 3 years older than me. He'd been in the world, he'd figured a lot of stuff out. And so by the time his little brother comes along, he was like, all right, I'm going to be the big brother, the hero to my little brother. And so it may show up in some silly way. Like I go to pull on a door and it's a push door. And he's like, oh, you got to push the door. Like I was probably 2 seconds away from identifying, how to do this thing. And it'll be a lot more solidified for me if I'm just, if the opinion doesn't come or the guidance doesn't come right away. It's just like, sit back and kind of watch me fail for a second. You know, and I think that's a common one that irks me. I don't know if it's something I'm overly sensitive to, because I've had this older brother trying to, like, you know, take those opportunities away from me. But that's one way that I feel like leaders have frustrated me. But maybe that's, just me.
Yeah, it's a good one, Matt. So let's go through that a little bit. And the key thing is you've got to allow people sometimes to scrape their knees, because scraping their knees is what they're going to learn from. There is no such thing as failure as long as you learn from it. Hold that environment. Let them try something. Even if you've tried it before and you know it doesn't work, telling them, I've done that before and it doesn't work, it's not very gratifying at all. It's just like, oh, okay, but I really wanted to try it. And maybe it'll be different for me. It comes back to personal choice a little bit. So even if you see someone about to do something where you're not sure it's going to work, just let them scrape their knees sometimes. And they'll learn so much more from scraping their knees than you interrupting and saying, yeah, don't do that, man. It doesn't work. Right?
Yeah.
They'll remember that for maybe 5 minutes, and 5 minutes later, they'll go back and try it anyway. So just let them try it, and then they'll learn from it, and then be there for them when they do stumble, when they do scrape their knees, hold that space for them, and then help them with a journey of discovery around what did they learn. So what went well today? What didn't go well? What would you do differently next time? What did you learn about yourself today? What did you learn about the world? What did you learn about others? So that they can then reflect and go, your example of the push-pull, it's a very easy one to learn.
Yeah.
But you're not going to learn it by someone saying, oh, no, you don't push the door, Matt, you pull it. You learn it by pushing the door and going, oh okay, silly me. And then you know, right? So let people scrape their knees. Don't let them get into danger, right? So if they're about to do something that's fundamentally dangerous, you might need to intervene, but let them scrape their knees and they'll learn so much more.
Yeah. I know the simplistic example is there exactly to say, like, they're on the cusp of a discovery, and stepping back and just like letting them learn. It's easier said than done, for sure.
Yeah.
There's a certain angst about watching somebody fail at something. But that is a good point. It's more gratifying and more long-term, effective in the long term to have them figure it out, so long as there's no danger.
Yeah.
Another one, avoiding challenging conversations. I'm loving going through these, by the way. There's so much content in the book, but I think that this is really good for the people that are reading your book.
I had to put that one in because that's one of my weaknesses, Matt. I'm not big on confrontation. I never have been. It's something that I work on. And the problem is a problem avoided where you do need to have that challenging conversation. It never gets better with time. It kind of thing where someone's doing something that, let's say it annoys you, right? So they're doing something in a way and you find it a bit disrespectful, but you avoid the conversation and you just let it go and you just let it go and just let it go. And it starts building up. It starts building up inside you. You start going, oh, it really irks me when they do that certain behavior or that certain trait, or might even be a phrase that they use in meetings where it's really starting to grate on you. And it just builds up, and the emotion in you starts building up, and it starts to affect you, starts to affect your relationship with that person. And then eventually you get the courage and say, hey, Matt, you know what? It really rubs him out the wrong way when you use that word in the meeting, blah, blah, blah. And then you're mortified. You go, oh my God, why didn't you tell me? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize. So help people see their blind spots, have those challenging conversations, and have them early and often, not waiting until it's festered and it's built up a whole lot of emotion in you that might be unrecoverable if it goes too far. So
Yeah.
nip it in the
It's
bud.
like my one of my buddies is now married to this girl named Andrea, but this is a classic name where everybody, is it Andrea? Is it Andrea? Is it Andrea? Is it Andrea? It's like there's so many different
Yeah.
iterations of this name. And for like the first, I think on the third date, she told him that her name was pronounced differently than he'd been pronouncing it for the first 2 dates. And he truly was like, he was mortified. It was like one of these things where if I were her, you almost get to this point where, okay, and like now we're past the point where it's even appropriate to correct somebody, because you've been letting me call you this wrong name for months.
Yeah, good example, Matt. Yeah.
But it's really no big deal if you're like, oh, by the way, it's pronounced, Andrea.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
My bad.
Just don't let it fester. Even if it's a minor thing that just grates you the wrong way versus something that's a bit more major, don't let it fester. The other one I want to bring up there, because we spoke about some relatively soft examples there. If the behavior is, let's say it's an inappropriate workplace behavior, it's related to some kind of level of toxicity. What I want to share with you is, as a leader, you get the behavior that you reward, you get the behavior that you celebrate, and you get the behavior that you tolerate. So if someone on your team is doing something that is let's call it borderline against the values and beliefs of the group, they might be borderline bullying or worse, and you let it go, there's multiple things that happen. The behavior continues because you tolerate it from that individual. And then everyone else that's watching usually does one of two things. They'll go, oh, okay, well, Jim behaved like that and he got away with it, so I'm going to do it too. And now you've got more than one people that are replicating that behavior that you didn't want in the team. Or the second one is that you might have people in your team that are so incensed by that behavior. They see Jim behaving in a certain way in meetings that's toxic, that's inappropriate. They've gone across the line, and I can't believe that Jim got away with that. I am out of here. And before you know it, you start losing team members because of a behavior that was tolerated. So that would be at the more extreme end. Yeah.
But as a person who's championing psychologically safe environments, and also environments that have that are diverse, that are inclusive, where people feel like they belong, it reminds me of I saw this video recently that this guy posted about the importance of not just not being racist, but being intolerant of racist behavior. There's like somebody that got into an Uber and they said something to the effect of like, oh, thank God you're white, or something like that to their Uber driver. And the Uber driver's like, you know what? No, we're not going to do that. You're not going to make comments like that. Like you're going to get out of the Uber now. I'm not going to drive you. And it seems like one of those things that it would have been easy, to just be like, ha, 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 I'm here to provide a service. Like, let me just get you where you need to go, and then we'll be done with it. I won't engage, or I'll ignore it. But the value of in that moment being like, that is a not acceptable behavior whatsoever in any context. Even though we're all like here in this, we share this skin color, or we share this attribute. It's like just never okay. So I think that's what you just said was really enlightening about what it really means to create these environments where people think they belong.
Yeah, spot on. And that's a perfect example. Any kind of discrimination, any kind of harassment in the workplace, that's the kind of thing that do not let that stuff fester. Just nip it in the bud, and everyone is richer for that, including the perpetrator, by the way. They learn something by addressing it very early, right?
Yeah. Which brings us to the eighth mistake. And as you mentioned, there's many more you could have added. Not knowing when to escalate and when not to. I
Yeah,
think
so
that this
this
one's.
this one comes down to understanding your boss. Like most people have got a boss. Once again, unless you're a CEO or a founder, most people have got a boss. And I I speak a lot in the book about taking the time to learn the preferences of your team. This is learning the preferences of your boss. And it's a little bit of trial and error, but it's also about having a good conversation with them. So, hey, boss, what's most important to you? What are the things that you need to know about? And what are you happy for me to just get on with? So, having those conversations help. And then the rest of it becomes a little bit trial and error. So
Mhm.
you'll learn by paying attention. You'll learn what are some of the areas of passion or desire or need of your boss, and they can be very interesting. Like it might be something where you go, well, I've got this under control, but it might be something that is very near and dear to your boss's heart. So you need to know those things. So get to know your boss, understand when they want to be informed, when they want to be involved, as in, yeah, if there's, let's get to racism. It might be your boss, his number one thing is he wants to nip in the bud anything related to any kind of racist behavior in his workplace. So in this case, you don't just handle it and say, oh, boss, we had an incident and it's all under control. In this case, because it's a true passion, you say,
Mhm.
hey, we've got this situation in the workplace. I want to tell you about it. And you get there straight away. So it's about knowing your boss's preferences as well as your team. And then you can decide, okay, yeah, this one here is just one that I just need to inform him about, or him or her. This one I need to involve them 100% along the way. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And I'd never considered on like how to really develop that awareness about, what to do in that scenario. I feel like my thought was, oh, this would just be something that you figured out over time. Um, but yeah, thank you for that. So you talked about this concept, shifting gears just a little bit, about
Mm.
leading yourself out of a job, basically. Uh, this is I really like the concept, but it triggers maybe a little bit of like a scarcity in me, and I know that it's true, and I get it, but um, what's the concept there of developing your team so they no longer need you?
Yeah, so two parts of that. The first one is developing your successors straight away. So start working on who your successor might be. And secondly, don't become that choke point. There's almost no situation that I can think of where you do literally manage yourself out of a job. But what it does is it increases your capacity. So if your team aren't dependent on you every day, where they can be almost autonomous in the level of empowerment that they've got, you've got so much more thinking space now. Because
Mhm.
you remember, you're the one that had the vision and the purpose and the meaning, etc. Right? So if you're not spending all day, every day answering questions in meetings, whatever the case may be, because the team have got, yep, boss, we've got this. We don't need your help on this one. We've got it. Imagine all of that thinking space that you've now got, right? So it unleashes your creativity and your innovation so that you can focus on what's important for you to focus on. On the succession part, it actually holds you back if you don't. So if you become so really good at your job that no one else could possibly do it, well, guess what? Chances of you getting a promotion are pretty darn slim now, because you don't have someone ready where they can step into your shoes so that you're ready for something else. And that something else might be a step up, it might be a step sideways, but you're not ready for another opportunity because you have not developed the team around you where you could
Mhm.
possibly leave, because it's going to be too detrimental to the business if you did shift onto something else. So don't become that point of dependence where you can't grow and you can't go into your next role. That's when you really
Interesting.
limit yourself, right? So develop those around you so you're not needed anymore, so that you can move on to the next thing, and or you're not needed anymore, so you can focus on creativity and thinking and what is the team going to be doing 6 months from now. Like, so if you're not focusing on the day-to-day anymore, you can be looking 3 months out, 6 months out, 12 months out, 3 years out, and you can really be getting the business ready for its next iteration.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful from an identity standpoint too. Is I read about this concept of existing in this perpetual state of discovery, and not being so prone to want to define things. I understand why people want to create definition in their life, because it creates security in their life to be able to say, I am, and then finish that sentence with something that's like really, really structured, really defined. It's less secure, but there's wisdom in insecurity of saying, oh, I'm going to, in my vocabulary, I trust God that, I'm going to go through my life and God is into growing his children, and I'm going to, who knows what life will look like, but I know that whatever it looks like, we'll be able to handle this together. But the security that comes from say defining who you are based on your role, then you end up in these scenarios where you're getting your sense of security from that definition, and then there's going to be a point where you got to choose between, well, do I empower my team and thereby sacrifice some of my security right now, which, ooh, like that sounds scary, or do I forego the identification to my role entirely and just say, hey, the future has blessings in store. So like staying in this discovery and not, not fearing for what the future will hold if you didn't have that role.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things there, Matt. And the first thing I would say is you are not what you do. You are not what you do. You're made up by your values and beliefs and what you stand for. You're more driven by your purpose and who you are as an individual than your job title, et cetera, et cetera. And there's reasons for that. That gives you infinite growth, right? So if you're able to articulate your purpose around something that's actually something you can say, never say that you're actually finished. That means that you can continue to grow and grow and grow and create that vision of what you're trying to do. And where some of the danger comes in, well, what if there is something that happens in your life? I'm going to use a sports analogy here because it's one that happens a lot. When someone wraps their entire identity around, I am, Sally, professional basketballer, what happens when your basketball career finishes? Are you no longer Sally?
Right.
Right. So your identity is not what you do. It's who you are, how you treat other people, what you stand for, and driven by that kind of purpose. So instead of saying, your values. Yeah. So instead of saying, I am XYZ, what about I help people too so that they can, and then blah, 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 right? So make it something that is about your purpose, not about your job title.
So I help, I do the I am, I think the I am statement is about as complete of a identity statement as we need. But if you want to speak to something, if you want to identify with something, I love the idea of identifying with your values or with your purpose. That's great.
Yeah, cool. That's
awesome. Well, to kind of wrap up here, there's so much good stuff in the book. It was a really enjoyable read, and I'd love for you to just kind of, in closing, if somebody really, they get this promotion, they're in this place where, okay, it's time to become the leader now. They've got your book, they've got the leadership project. I guess what sort of guidance would you give them at this point to be able to rise to the occasion and be the type of leader that they really want to be?
Yeah, so I'm going to say, unlock a learning mindset and unlock the power of self-reflection. And you'll find in the book, I teach about self-reflection. I teach about daily self-reflection, asking yourself questions every day that will help you learn and grow every day as a leader. You don't have to go from zero to amazing leader in one day. It's like a habit building approach. What you want to be is 1% better every day. And how you do that is by asking yourself better questions. What went well today? What didn't go well today? What would I do differently next time if I had my time over again? What did I learn about myself today? And what did I learn about others, including my team today? Just keep on asking yourself those questions, and you'll be surprised what you discover from the leader inside you. The other one that comes with the learning mindset is what I call the Amalgam Leader. So there's a principle in the book called the Amalgam Leader, where you start looking around at others around you, but you're not looking to mimic another leader and go, okay, I'm going to be just like Elon Musk. And we could unpack that one for a long way. He's not a great role model of leadership, to be honest. But you don't just mimic the behavior of someone around there, but you pick and choose and go, all right, so, and what I've done in my career is I've learned those positive lessons from inspirational leaders and gone, oh yeah, I really liked when Chris Jenkins did this. He was one of my leaders in the past. And what I liked about it was, and how he made me feel was this. And then conversely, I remember all of the horrible bosses that I've had and go, oh yeah, I remember when, and I won't use my names here, but I remember when this person did this and how it made me feel, how it made me feel. So you're learning every day, but then putting your own stamp on it, because you don't want to be a mimic of someone else. You want to bring your authentic self and your own flavor to it, but you're learning every day and going, I liked that. I didn't like that. And then with the self-reflection, you're also learning what your team like, right? So what works for you may not work for them. So you need to be adaptive and ready to learn and go, yeah, this worked, or I know how to motivate Matt, and all of these things. Be careful with that one too. This is something that is challenging in leadership, and it's not challenging when it comes to things like software engineering or accounting, or most of our jobs that we do, our individual contributor jobs, have got known rules. The problem with human beings is we're very erratic and we're very complex. So what works for one member of your team does not work for another member of your team. But to make it worse, what works for that one member of a team 2 weeks from now might not work for them anymore, because they've either grown as an individual, or there's something going on in their personal life where they're under unusual amounts of stress every day. So you need to be adaptive, and you need to be paying attention and learning every day. So that would be my biggest thing. Be self-compassionate. It'll come.
Yeah.
So don't try to be the world's best leader in one go. Be compassionate, self-compassionate. Learn something every day, be 1% better every day. And the only way to do that is to pay attention to what's going on around you.
Yeah. Yep. It's so easy to charge forward without taking that moment to slow and to ask those vital questions that you just posed, the self-reflective questions. So that's huge. Yeah, that's great. And you were a big champion throughout the whole book of all kinds of questions of self-reflection. Yep.
And by the way, that's the way to help your team grow as well. Ask them those questions. What did you learn from that today? Right? A huge. What's the real challenge for you today? Get them into that reflective state.
Yeah. One of my, I'm not sure what, I think this guy is sort of a spiritual guru. His name Jiddu Krishnamurti said that the ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence. And I find so many different ways to apply this thinking in my own life, but merely like not being so harsh and so critical and so judgmental and like evaluating and saying right, wrong, good, bad, but just sitting back and saying, okay, I see that for what it is. And by asking some of those gentle, curious, observational, like self-reflective questions, you can really get to the heart of that without ever being like, again, the definition thing, like, oh, I am just not a good leader. So
what you're talking about there is listening without judgment. This takes practice as well. So anyone listening in the audience that wants to have a go at this, also be self-compassionate with yourself on this one. So people are usually pretty good at active listening, and they're getting better and better at that. They're also getting better at asking better questions, but you need to listen without judgment, including what's your body language, all of those things. You're holding space so that someone can openly express themselves without fear of judgment or retribution. So it might even be things like this. And you mentioned about paying, or we both mentioned about paying attention. So how about reframing this one? You might get into a conversation where you can pick something up. You feel like your team member is angry, frustrated, whatever the case may be. You've got two ways of doing this. The way that most people would do it is, Matt, you seem frustrated right now. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And you might think that's a good question, but you've actually imposed judgment in that question. You've determined that Matt is frustrated. What if we reshifted that question and we said, Matt, I noticed something shift in you just now. What was that? And now Matt can say, well, actually, boss, I'm really frustrated today, and here's why. But you haven't imposed any judgment, and you haven't presupposed the answer. He might have said, I was confused, and you might have thought he was frustrated, but he was actually confused. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tell me what was about it that confused him, and we can fix it straight away, right? So ask questions that don't have judgment in the question. Pretty challenging.
Certainly. But as you joked in the book, sometimes the soft skills are the hard skills, and maybe they could be renamed. What was it that you said? Instead of calling them soft skills, maybe we could call them.
So I think it's core skills. It's your core skills, right? So it's your core skills of how you relate to other human beings. So and everyone needs them. Yeah.
I'm flipping through the book right now, looking for a quote also where you're talking about, certainly it's in the same section where you're saying Stephen Covey talking about seek first to understand and then be understood. Yeah. But right prior to that, you had this line about like asking questions and seeking to understand as though you know nothing.
Yeah. I got this one from, his name has just escaped from me, but he's the CEO of John Maxwell's company now, Maxwell Leadership. And he says, and I don't fully subscribe to this one, but it's not bad. He says, when you speak with absolute confidence that you believe in what you're saying. But when you listen as if you know nothing. It's really, that's a really interesting. Yeah.
Mark Cole,
that's his name. Yeah.
I found it.
You found it. Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
I love the photographic memory that it's like, oh, it's going to be on this section of the page right around here toward the end.
Well done.
That's great, man. Listen as if you know nothing. And so, it's tough. My sister works in respite care in a hospital for adults with disabilities, and has bounced around in this world of mental health world for the last decade. And she has an ability to listen without judgment, like I've never seen, where someone can tell her, and people have told her, heinous things that they have done, and it's part of her training to just hear them and give them that space without like having your face become a scowl. Like she's talked to people about why they're in the hospital, and they just the day before they had just killed 6 kittens, and they're talking about this story, and it's just like she's repulsive. And yet being able to not make them feel the seething judgment that would be just so automatic for people. It's impressive.
Yeah, it's a gift when you're able to do it, and it creates something amazing by not passing that judgment, even in the way that you word questions.
Yeah. It's leadership. It's it's leading them really well. So
Yeah, cool.
I love it. All right, Mick. Well, this was fun. This is great. Again, you could buy Mick's book. It's You're a Leader. Now What? The Proven Path to High Performance Leadership. You can get that book just about anywhere that books are sold. Correct? Amazon. Do you have a website as well that people can go to?
Yeah, so if they go to mickspiers.com, you can find lots of things there about the book, and you can also find things about the Leadership Project and our Leadership Academy. So we run a leadership program. So we have our flagship program, which people can go into and learn a lot of the concepts in the book in a cohort environment where we use a lot of collaborative and social learning. We use gamification, and we use micro learning to help you on that journey. So instead of just reading the book and not knowing where to start, we really help you and coach you through it. We do one-on-one and group coaching calls around leadership. And we also do high performance team workshops. So anyone out there that's in a business that's looking to take their entire team to the next level of performance, we do high performance team workshops, once again based around a lot of the things that you see there in the book.
All right, awesome. Well, Mick, this is a pleasure. It's great chatting with you, and there you have it. A couple of next steps for you if you're interested in developing yourself as a leader. So,
all right, brilliant.
Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Matt.